Hey everyone, it is Friday afternoon. I've taken a look at all the drafts I've received so far, so there's still one or two of you that still need to send me a draft of your rhetorical analysis. But for the folks that did send in a draft, I took a quick look, and this video is going to cover some of the major trends that I notice in the draft, so that maybe you can head some of these off, or you can start developing ideas about how you might address them. I've only spoken with one of you so far about your draft, and I have conversations planned for the other couple of folks that did submit drafts. Those of you that didn't submit a draft so I can talk to you about it. So what are the trends that I noticed? I'm going to pause, and then you're going to see an essay up. I'm going to try not to kind of reveal names of people, because this isn't about shaming anybody or making people feel guilty or anything like that. A draft is a draft, and I'm all about shitty first drafts. I actually think these drafts are pretty solid starting points, but I want to give you some feedback so that you can address it in the revision, and maybe give you some ideas if you're having a hard time figuring out what else you're going to write about. Okay, so let's get started. So one issue that everybody that has submitted a draft will need to address is in how you're organizing ideas. And it's absolutely fine at the drafting stage to not really have an idea of, like, here's how I'm going to begin the essay, here's the first body paragraph, here's the second body paragraph. In your revision, though, there should be a clear reason why you begin with one particular rhetorical issue, and then why do you go to the next, and then why do you end with that last rhetorical issue. So just to kind of give you an example of it, in this draft, it's about Malcolm X's Ballot or the Bullet. There's a paragraph up here, and then we have a second aspect of rhetoric that made Malcolm's speech successful is the structure and delivery. Why is that second? Your organization scheme for this assignment should kind of explain why structure and delivery comes next. So is it the second most effective? Is it the second step that he had to make in delivering his speech? I mean, you don't want to do a chronology of his speech, like he talked about this and then he did this other thing, but it's like, if he had to establish some kind of rhetorical goal and accomplish that before he could move on to something else, or it paved the way for something else, that could be a way that you could kind of organize ideas. So yeah, one thing that I think everybody needs to address, having a clear reason why you're beginning with one idea, and then why do you go to the next idea. It might be something like, something like that. So why didn't this go first? Well, maybe it wasn't the most persuasive or the most successful appeal that X used, but it was something that was still pretty. So it's kind of like beginning with the most persuasive and most successful to less persuasive, less successful. Another issue folks need to address is in doing a bit more research about audience. So it's becoming evident to me, like when I'm reading body paragraphs and I see something like we have here, this is about Nixon's checker speech. This quote from Nixon is very important because it helps to build trust with his audience by stating his service record. And I buy this argument, like I buy this claim, but we're kind of talking about audience, at least in the drafts that I've seen so far, we're talking about audience in a kind of abstract, general way, like there's just one generic audience. And that really isn't the case when people are putting together speeches. They're appealing to voters or appealing to specific voters that are maybe voting with Nixon's party, and they're not trusting whether or not he should still be the VP candidate. So, what things does he have to do to gain that person's trust? That's going to be very different from another voter that might be in a different party, or somebody that's just apathetic to politics at all. So who specifically is the audience? What do you know about them? What can you find out about them that will help you make a better case in these body paragraphs, especially when you're talking about credibility and emotion? I'm going to pause in here for a second to show you how to use an Mdash. An Mdash, it's something that I'm just asking that you try out for your revision of the rhetorical analysis. And it is a kind of stylistic feature that can help you draw the reader's attention to something. So when we use an Mdash, it's kind of used like around used around a specific noun. So we have like Nixon. So it's kind of used like this. We also use parentheses around these kinds of things. So we have a specific noun. What we're telling our reader is that the information between the commas can be removed, and the sentence is still kind of reads and makes sense. Richard M. Nixon was born in California. That's a full sentence. You could also put, parentheses. Parentheses, that's the least amount of emphasis. So if you really want to kind of throw something to the curb and indicate that it's not very important, Richard M. Nixon, the president who was resigned in the 1970s, was born in California. So this stuff here is not really emphasized. Use these kind of sparingly. Use commas if you want folks to know this information, but you're kind of telling them that it is not essential to the meaning of the sentence. Richard M. Nixon, the president who resigned in the 1970s, was born in California. If you really want to draw attention to this information, use a Mdash. So here's how you do it. And there's different ways of going about it. You can go to Insert in Word. Oops, sorry, Trenton. Go to Insert, and then you go to Symbol, and you can find it over there in the symbols, but I'm going to show you how to do it, how to get Word to do it automatically for you. So, Richard M. Nixon. So after the immediately after the end, like you don't press a space bar or anything. So you type X-O-N, type hyphen, don't press the space bar, type the, and when you press the space bar, look what happens right here. It turns into a dash. This dash is the exact width of an uppercase M in whatever font that you're in. That's why it's called an M dash. So you use that instead of the commas. And then look what it does. It really draws the reader's attention to that stuff in the middle. I want you to try this out. I don't want you to overuse it, but do try it out in the rhetorical analysis revision. It's not a huge part. It's not a ton of your grade is not riding on it or anything like that. It's just something that I'd like you to try out. Last bit of advice. Actually, I got maybe one other thing. Another important thing to keep in mind, and something I saw in all the drafts, and again, these are just drafts, and we're totally fine. Like, these are solid as far as drafts go. When you guys are writing about rhetorical issues, I'm noticing that you're dedicating like one per paragraph. Like, this paragraph is about ethos. I have another paragraph that's about pathos. That's okay. That's fine. I think you guys are working with speeches where maybe one paragraph doesn't do something justice. Definitely if you're talking about Malcolm X, his use of emotion, Mary Fisher too. What are the different ways that Mary Fisher's or Malcolm X or Richard Nixon that they appeal to emotion or that they appeal to credibility? Those different ways could be individual paragraphs. There's different ideas with delivery. Malcolm X has this kind of spellbinding way of using call and response, which is a kind of a product of the black church. And he's able to kind of like offer something out there. He gets feedback from the audience. It fuels him in a particular direction. That's one issue of delivery. His use of pauses might be another issue of delivery. Can you find multiple examples of how he's doing that? Thinking about the different ways that credibility is established or different ways of delivery is used. I think thinking along those ways, I think, is going to get you guys in a much better place instead of like, oh shit, what other rhetorical issues are in my grab bag or that Richard Toy reading that I skimmed. Getting away from that and thinking a bit deeper about some of the rhetorical issues that we have here. Last thing that I'll leave you all with, and then I'll shut up. Within the body paragraphs, it's super important to kind of explain how these things are working as an appeal to emotion or credibility or why it's an issue of delivery, and then talk about the impact that that had on the audience. Again, right now, I think our understanding of the audience is kind of superficial in a way. It's like, yeah, these are black folks in the audience. there's a bit more to that needs to be unpacked. So Malcolm X is delivering this speech, and I totally agree with this writer here when they write, he evoked a number of feelings from his audience, feelings of anger, sadness, and fear. Focus on one place where you saw that specifically happening. Where was he really trying to appeal to anger? Again, I think there could be individual paragraphs about anger, sadness, fear. He even does this like shame thing, like how dare you all sit down for demonstrations when you should be up and swinging, as he says. So again, thinking about different ways that you can construct paragraphs, but also when you're within those paragraphs, using more examples from the speech. Like, here's an example of him using anger. Here's why I think it's an example of an emotional appeal. Here's the impact that it had on that audience. That kind of work is needed within the body paragraphs. Before I wrap up the video and kind of send you on your way, send me an email. Put anything you want in the subject line. But send me an email where you try to use an Mdash. Show me that you know how to use it. You can copy and paste something out of your essay and include it into the body of the email, whatever you need to do. But show me that you know how to use an Mdash. Do that, and I'll give you credit for watching this video. So that's what I had to share with you all. Again, the drafts that I've seen, I think that they're in the right direction. There's a couple folks that still owe me drafts, and we need to talk. But I think that these ideas are getting in the right direction. The conversations with me, I want them to be helpful. It's not I'm not trying to be a jerk or anything. I really am trying to help you get this essay where it needs to be. I know that this term has gone by super quick. There's been a lot of stuff that's happened. I know that I haven't paced the course maybe as well as I could have. And I will give a little bit of grace and latitude. But those things that I'm asking for in the rubric, you got to show me that stuff. You got to show me that stuff. I cut out that final assignment so that we can do this one right. So we need to make sure we stick the landing. Reach out to me, set up a time to meet. I'm even willing to meet with you guys on Thursday and Friday of break to make sure that we get this thing done. Okay, that's it for today. Again, questions? Meet with me. Send me an email. Talk to you soon.